A good minute has passed since Luffy's Gears 5 transformation. At the same time, us One Piece fans also learned that the Gomu Gomu was actually the Hito model Nika. Even though that big secret was revealed, something tells me that the Nika fruit is still hiding its true powers. And whatever these powers are, they were most likely feared by the world government, so much to end up causing a genocide and avoid centering. Now in chapter 1065, we get shown a relic from the Lost Great Kingdom, the giant iron robot. This robot 200 years ago, out of nowhere, supposedly climbed all the way up the Red Line and attacked the Holy Land of Mary Joy. Now, the world government wanted every trace of that robot erased, but scientists at that time had other plans. Vegapunk tried to reverse engineer every aspect of this ancient robot, and was successful apart from the fact that he was unable to replicate the robot's power source. Now, Vegapunk was unsuccessful in replicating this ancient energy, probably because the original source of this ancient energy came from an ancient devil fruit power. I wonder which one it could possibly be.
世界で最もふざけた能力だと聞いている。
Hello, my name is Marco, and welcome to One Piece World Journal. In this video, I will talk about the secrets that Joy Boy is probably still hiding, and why these powers could be so important going forward in the story. So buckle up and get ready to see the Nika fruit, like you have never imagined it before. The true beginning of One Piece began with the awakening of the Nika fruit. That's me paraphrasing an interview Oda did a week after the release of chapter 1044. Now, even though the Nika fruit has awakened, I believe that the fruit is still being very precautious. This caution is shown from the fact that Luffy still believes his fruit to be the Gomu Gomu. It's common knowledge that as soon as you eat a devil fruit, you learn of its name and power. This meant Luffy had to pretty much figure out his devil fruit power all on his own, and had to rely on his imagination to help increase his devil fruit's power efficiency in combat. In chapter 1044, through the dialogue of the Gorosei, we learn about the true name and power of Luffy's devil fruit for the first time. The Gorosei described the power of the Nika fruit to be ridiculous in combat when awakened, since the user not only can use rubber properties to manipulate its own body, but also his surroundings. And the extent of this manipulation is limited only by the user's imagination. I want to mention that many fans misinterpreted the sentence, limited only to the user's imagination, with Luffy can do whatever his imagination wants, which is not quite the same. If that were the case, meat will be falling out of the sky everywhere Luffy went. The sentence actually meant that he could manipulate his rubber properties in any way his imagination led him. Looking back, Luffy had been using his great imagination long before the events of his awakening, and even before he ate his devil fruit, and this was shown through Luffy's many signature moves. Luffy's first and most famous move, the Gomu pistol, derives from him believing as a child that his punch was as strong as a pistol, as he tells Shanks in chapter 1. Luffy also combined his lived experience and imagination with his rubber properties, which helped him come up with his numerous battle attacks that kept us fans laughing for the last 25 years. A good example is the Gomu Bazooka, which was first used on Captain Buggy. And where do you think Luffy got that idea? Well, months earlier, Luffy witnessed the Buggy Cannon in action.
A few moments later.
The same can be said about how Luffy leveled up through his gears. For example, the famous Gear Second pose was inspired by the Yokozuna the Giant Frog while he challenged the Puffing Tom. While the actual gear transformation was influenced by CP9's Tekkai technique. Now, when we think about how a big chunk of Luffy's growth came from just his imagination, it just kind of aligns perfectly with what the Gorosei say on the Nika fruit, regarding how the imagination of the user can amplify the fruit's power. And when you think about it, having the ability to take your imagination and turn it into reality and use it towards your advantage to help you in that given situation is an absolutely insane power that the Nika fruit has. However, there's one very important detail about the Nika fruit that Oda hasn't directly expanded on, that could potentially hint at another power, the fact that Luffy's devil fruit is named after the Sun God Nika. And why is this detail so important? Well, when we think about the sun, we think about a massive combustive planet that gives off endless amounts of natural energy. Time and time again, we see Luffy create energy from nothing. And what if Luffy can not only create, but manipulate this energy just like he does with rubber properties? And could this energy manipulation also be limited to his imagination? In chapter 1068, titled A Genius's Dream, Vegapunk shares his plan about creating energy that is available to everyone. This dream made Vegapunk research this ancient fuel that powered the ancient mechanical soldier. I didn't really give a personal opinion earlier in regards to the giant iron robot, but I will now. The fact that this ancient giant robot, one day, 200 years ago, got up from a junkyard and said, "Today I'm going to go attack Mary Joy," is absolutely insane. Like, why is no one talking about this? Like, why and how did that happen? Was that robot programmed to attack Mary Jo? Did it have a specific mission? Or did it reply to a stress call? Now, I did a lot of brainstorming, but very little information about 200 years ago was mentioned apart from the fact that the Fishman Island decided to join the Reverie, and the records of the ship from the St. Brice that almost fell in the Straw Hats just before the Mocktown arc. However, there's still a lot to unpack. In the last frame of chapter 1065, titled 6 Vegapunks, is when we get the first view of this ancient robot. Coincidentally, the first thing that Luffy says when he sees the ancient robot is, "It's really metal, and not just another holo holo." Now the holo holo could be a reference to Perona's devil fruit, which had the ability to create and manipulate ghosts. Now, as we take a second glance at Luffy's statement, what if Oda used Luffy's simple mind to state the obvious, which in reality was hiding a statement that could have come straight from Joy Boy himself? That said, this is really me, not just another ghost. Could this be a hint that the robot was created and programmed by Joy Boy in the past, specifically to go to Mary Joy on some kind of mission 800 years in the future? So what was this robot doing at Mary Joy? We know that the answer to that question would be found in a similar event that happened recently in the present timeline, or how some like to call it, the mirror reflection event. So who recently went to Mary Joy without an invite and created havoc? Well, that would be Sabo, who along with his Revolutionary Army captains, went on a rescue mission to take back their old ally and friend, Bartolomeo Kuma. Therefore, could it have been that, 200 years ago, the giant robot was also sent to Mary Joy on a rescue mission? And if yes, who and what was it rescuing? By studying Oda for the past decade, I can comfortably tell you that missing information from an event can be pieced together through the mirror event, given that event is more comprehensive and gives you the missing details. Please, stick with me here, I promise I'm not crazy, and I'm going to make this more straightforward. So let's say the event regarding the giant robot going to Mary Joy is going to be named Event 6, and Sabo's raid on Mary Joy is going to be called Event 9. Now, due to several similarities, such as both events happening in Mary Joy, or that both were raids, is why I believe Event 6 is the mirror reflection of Event 9, and vice versa. Now this is important. Two events that mirror each other doesn't mean that they are identical to one another. Actually, it means the opposite, because they are the reverse version of the other. For example, when you look at yourself in the mirror, although the image in that mirror looks like you, it is not actually you, since everything you see about you in that mirror is reversed.
We are twins. We are basically the same.
For example, the rescuer in Event 9 Sabo has very little in common with the giant robot, whereas the person being rescued, Kuma, shares more similarities with the giant robot. And if you think about it as a mirror event, it makes perfect sense. The theme, which is the rescue mission, stays the same, but the character roles reverse. So we still didn't answer the question about who the giant robot were rescuing. Well, the path to that answer comes from the additional information from Event 9 that was not covered in Event 6. The reason to rescue Kuma. Now, when you take Kuma, a soulless cyborg of mass destruction, what is something in One Piece that is completely the opposite? Something that does have a soul, is fully organic, but doesn't have a body. Well, the answer to that is a devil fruit. And which one in particular? Well, in a flashback, Luffy calls Sabo Sad Boy. And what is the opposite of Sad Boy? Well, it could be Happy Boy, but Joy Boy works also, especially in One Piece. And now that we know Joy Boy's soul was hidden in the Nika fruit, this whole time we can conclude that 200 years ago, the ancient giant robot raided Mary Joy to steal the Hito Hito no Mi model Nika from the world government. Now, when you take a close inspection of the ancient robot, you start to notice other details, such as the broken left horn, the left arm missing, and a spear that is punctured to the right. Now, do these details remind you of someone in particular? Someone who also, without argument, rescued the Sun God Nika. Someone missing the left arm with the scar on his left eye that keeps his weapon on the right. Well, no one other than the Emperor of the Sea, Shanks.
Zero.
However, we know for a fact that the ancient robot ran out of power in Mary Joy, which means that if the mission was indeed a rescue mission, it would have been unsuccessful. Well, the details could tell otherwise. In the frame showing the flashback of when the robot attacked the Holy Land, we see that the robot was stabbed with the same spear he used in the battle, with the spear slightly descending to the right, the only side with an arm. I firmly believe that the robot did not run out of energy, but auto-inflicted the spear to intentionally end the mission. Seppuku, I guess I can call it that, meant that 1, he completed the mission, and 2, the auto-destroy was necessary so that the energy source that Vegapunk talks about could not be studied and replicated. So, how did the giant robot save the Nika fruit? To answer that question, we need to observe how Kuma is incorporated within this part of the story. Returning to chapter 1068, Vegapunk Shaka tells the Straw Hats that by studying the giant robot he was able to create Vegaforce 01, but was successful in reverse engineering every mechanical aspect. Vegapunk then goes on to say that he was unable to recreate the same power source in Vegaforce 01 that fueled the giant robot. Now, it is important not to mix Vegaforce 01 with Vegaforce 12, which was the giant robot that flew the Straw Hat ship up to the Agate Island. Now, if Vegapunk reverse engineered the giant robot, that same programming that sent it to Mary Joy would also have been built in Vegaforce 01, given it was ever activated. And who recently, that was engineered by Vegapunk, all out of nowhere without reasons unknown, took off to marry Joy. Well, I'm obviously talking about Bartolomeo Kuma. Therefore, when Vegapunk refers to Vegaforce 01, he's probably referring to Kuma. And how was this ancient command activated in Kuma? Well, if we move back to chapter 1066, titled The Wheel of O'Hara, we find Luffy yelling at the robot to move. And out of nowhere, the robot creates a massive and loud shockwave, similar to that of Kuma.
ウルススショック
See, I firmly believe that the same shockwave was the contributing factor that sent Kuma to marry Joy, and it very much seems like no other than Luffy to have been the one to set off the activation code. As many things in One Piece, the title Wheel of O'Hara refers to more than one concept. Wheel of O'Hara in that chapter also stands for the inherited will of Joy Boy that was dormant within the mechanical giant robot and was later inherited by Kuma. Now, since Vegapunk tried to reverse engineer every aspect of the ancient robot and Kuma, it is very much possible that the giant robot had the same devil fruit power that Kuma had, the Paw fruit. Now, if the giant robot did have the Paw devil fruit, it would first of all explain how the ancient robot managed to go all the way up to marry Joy 200 years ago. But most importantly, it would also explain how the giant robot rescued the Nika fruit, despite of running out of power. And how, you might ask? Well, by flying. The same way Kuma saved Luffy and his crewmates back in Sabaody. For years, the One Piece fans questioned why Kuma saved the Straw Hats and protected their ship, and the answer was simply through the inherited will of Joy Boy. Back in Sabaody, Joy Boy cried for help, and without hesitation, Kuma did what the giant robot was intended to do. Kuma lost all his humanity at the cost of inheriting the will of the ancient robot, who in turn lost his vital energy source, all to push the world closer toward the dawn. And that same will was also inherited by Shanks, the captain of the Red Hair Pirates, whose connection to this story still remains a mystery. So what about the ancient power energy source that Vegapunk couldn't replicate, and could it be related to the Mother Flame that Emu so badly wants? Well, that is a very big discussion that will be explored into the part 2 of the Sun God Nika. This is Marco from One Piece World Journal, and thank you so much for spending some time.